Hello viewers, welcome back. We are now looking at dynamic labels. And now, one of the reasons that why we highlight all the values over 110 million in EBITDA in this cell D35 is because EBITDA, or the earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization, is a very common measure of profitability, and many owners like to focus on growing the EBITDA over time with the goal of possibly exiting the business, or in terms of selling the company once the EBITDA maybe has reached a certain threshold, or existing. In other words, this EBITDA, since it is a measure of profitability, they assume that if it has reached a certain threshold, then they can be able to make some good profit. So, what we are going to do next is we are going to create a little panel down here below the EBITDA highlighted section here. And the reason as why we are creating that panel there is want to look at exactly what the EBITDA is in the last year and set a dynamic label so that that dynamic label can be able to adjust in the future depending on the EBITDA that has been set by the owners or the users of the financial statements, because they may tell you we are projecting this such and such kind of EBITDA, but what we are trying to achieve is that if EBITDA reaches a certain level or threshold, we need to sell off the company, because we will assume that at that point the company has made some profits. So let's start off by grabbing this little label here, this one, B35, this one. Let's copy that. We are just going to do a copy, that is Control C, and now we are going to row 38. Let's paste it in row 38. We do a paste in that cell B38. So we do a paste in that cell, that is B38. So we are going to go Control V to paste that, and we've pasted it there. So we are going to tap F2 key to be within that cell B38. F2 just to be within that cell. And now we want to use Control Shift left arrow. Control Shift, then we use the left arrow. That left arrow is going to highlight. It has highlighted that word EBITDA. So we just delete out that word that has been highlighted, the EBITDA. So we've deleted it. Let's first do Control Z there. We are supposed to first to highlight Control Alt is Control Shift right arrow. We delete this one highlighted, because we are picking the EBITDA. We are picking EBITDA of the last year, because we just want this model to be dynamic. So what we are going to do, we want the EBITDA for EBITDA in 2028, because what we are picking the EBITDA for the last year, because that's what we can use if at all we want to set a given threshold, or if you want to see when we have reached a given threshold. So now what we are going to do, obviously, is we are going to link this cell D38. So we are going to put in the equal sign. We use now the up arrow. Sorry. So this is what the one we've created here is something that is static. What we've created is the static label. What we are going to do, we are going to make it dynamic in a moment. But before we do that, let's bring down the formatting that is here in this cell D34. This one, the formatting that is in this cell D34 and D35. So we can highlight, shift down arrow. We highlight those two cells. So want those and the label. So we can do a copy, Control C, and now we can paste that down to cell D37 and D38. You can paste them here. Control V to paste those values there. And now we are going to change this word here, this word over right there, to amount. We are going to change it to amount. So we can hit the F2 key to get into that. We change it to amount, just like that. And then we can bring in the amounts of EBITDA in 2028. Down here, we bring in the EBITDA amount for 2028. So now what we are going to do, obviously, is we are going to link that D38, put in an equal sign. We are going to link that value to, and we'll head over to cell L35. Can just use these arrows, L35. That is the L35. That's the value for the EBITDA value in 2028 is that. So let's link this across. That is the value for EBITDA in the last year, which is 126,154,000 US dollars. That's roughly 126 million. So we've brought that value to that cell D38. So let's pop up into that cell, and what we want to do, we want to change the font color in that cell D38 to black. So we want this one to be black. So let's do Alt H for home, then FC, and now we are going to use black in there. And we have changed that value to black. So that's the black font color. So this is the setup that looks nice. But now, even though the setup looks really nice, but the label over here in B38, the label B38 here, as we mentioned before, that it is static. And what do we mean exactly by static? Well, if we go all the way back to the top of the model, if maybe we try to move all the way to the top of the model, that's the top of the model, and we switch. So when you go in the top of the model, in the assumption section, and we go in here and change the numbers in this cell. If we go in these assumptions and we change the numbers in here, F5, and maybe we change it to something else, because here we have 2022. So we can come and change it to 2023. We hit enter. So we are seeing that we would make the last year to be to 2029. But the problem is, if we would do that, then the label wouldn't update, because if we go back to our label that we have or that we've created, we've adjusted the period, but for it still reads EBITDA in 2028, which means it hasn't responded to the dynamics or the changes that we've given to the model. So what we want to do, we want to make this label here in cell B38, so that that cell is linked up to the years in the model, so that here, if we change the period the other side, even this one can actually adjust automatically. So how are we going to do that? So what we are going to do, let's be in this cell B38, and what we are going to do, we tap the F4, the F2 key, just to get into that cell B38. And what we are going to do, we are going to delete out the static number there. So the static number there is 28. So what we are going to do there, so we are going to go to the beginning of that cell right here. We can move to the beginning of that cell right there, that cell B38. So let's put in an equal sign. Put in an equal sign. So when you put in an equal sign, we have now to open the double quotes. Shift, then for the quotes. And now we are going to say EBITDA in, because it's already EBITDA in, and then we can add, after the word in, we want to put in to have a space there. So we put in a space, and we are going to put in these remaining double quotes. So we put in shift double quotes. And now we are going to put in an ampersand. The ampersand is like the and. The same way you write these short forms and you put and. The ampersand is on that button of 7. That's what we call the ampersand. You shift 7. It's the one that brings that ampersand. So we put in the ampersand, and it looks like that, the way you are seeing it in there. And now we are going to move up to the cell L5, because L5, let's try to move in this L5. L5 is the year, this one. That's where we can see the year. If you want to see the formula, you can actually see it from this formula, this insert section, the formula section here. So we go to L5, and it is the one that has the last year. So we can now tap the F2 key to have that cursor in place. So we can now see from there that we can be able to move. So now we can come here and hit the enter key. And we've seen that everything is now in place. But now we have to go back, because now we did not change the other figure. We need to change it. The one we had adjusted from this point, 2020, it was 2022. So if you change that to 2022, you will see that it's also going back to 2028. So it's now dynamic. So that's how we can be able to have that. But because I know from that point you've not been able to see some of these things, so that's the visual aspect of the things that we've been able to do. That's how our label is going to look like. So the main difference here is that this one is dynamic. This one is dynamic. And if maybe we enter into that cell, we can see that we have done, if we go deep inside that cell using the F2 key, you can see that we've put the static portion. We have loaded the static part of the label inside. We've put inside the double quotes here. IBEDA in, then we put everything in double quotes. Because the reason I will put that in double quotes is because it will never change, because those words are static. And then after the ampersand, we have in there, we've put cell L5. And L5 is where we have the dynamic piece that will pull in the year automatically. So I hope it actually works out well, even when you're trying it yourself alone. So let's go up on the top and we see whether those values were adjusted, because we need to, we adjusted this one back to 2022. Because if you forget to adjust that back to 2022, then you will not be able to see some of these values changing. So that's how we are saying that this cell here in B38, it can actually adjust itself or update itself instantly, as long as we change the number of years in the model. So it's now a great job that we've done, because we've been able to put in the dynamic label as we wanted it. Now, we have been able to install a little limit in here in cell D35. We've put in a limit, and we have the conditional formatting in place that will automatically highlight all the values above that threshold of 110 million. And we have been able to put in place a dynamic label over here on the left hand side in cell B38. So with that in place, let's jump ahead to the next video, and now we start building another section down below these values, these values that we have. And what we are going to build there is what we call common size income statement. So it is the common size income statement where we are going to be able to have those information that is relating to the income statement. We'll be able to have some percentages and all that. So we are going to be able to do some comparisons with all the different income statement line items against the revenue line item for a given period of time. So those are the things that we are going to look at in the next video. We'll see you there.